Joining us now to discuss is John Lott, the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. John is an economist and world-recognized expert on guns and crime. He also served as the senior advisor for research and statistics in the U.S. Department of Justice under the first Trump administration. So, John, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So, I was watching that press conference, and Patel is pointing to this graph, right? He had on the side, and then it showed the Biden administration arrests in a 4-year span, 15,000, 16,000, 17,000, and then you go to Trump, first 7 months, 28,600 arrests. The graph shot up. It was like a ski slope. Just talk to us about that.
Well, look, I mean, this whole issue of crime isn't rocket science. If you want to reduce crime, you have to make it riskier for criminals to go and commit crime. And that means things like higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences. And, this is part of the process that's there. We just recently had crime data come out from the Bureau of Justice Statistics showing that the percentage increase that we had in violent crime during the Biden administration was 59% for felonious violent crime. That's by far the largest increase we've had over any 4-year period since they started collecting that data over 52 years ago. So, I think crime is falling. I mean, they mentioned the fact that crime is going down. We won't know. There are two different types of numbers that you have of crime. You have crimes reported to police. Those are the FBI data. And then you have total crime, both reported and unreported. And that's from the Bureau of Justice Statistics. I think most people care much more about total crime. It's going to be a year or so before we know kind of what happened to total crime this year. But my own guess is that we've reversed the trend. You compare it to Trump's first term. During Trump's first term, violent crime fell. And obviously it increased dramatically under Biden. My guess is we'll be going back to reducing it. Look, you see this notion of the importance of arrests in D.C. I think you're going to be seeing it very soon in Memphis. You take criminals off the streets. You make it riskier for other criminals to go and commit crime, and you're going to see less crime.
Can you point to us the key difference here between the Trump administration and previous administrations' approach in terms of cracking down on crime? What is the biggest difference, the key difference?
Well, I think, look, there's lots of ways you can make it riskier for criminals to commit crime. As I said, higher arrest rates, conviction rates, longer prison sentences, also allowing victims to be able to go and defend themselves. In Washington, D.C., the Trump administration did all those things. They effectively doubled the number of officers on the street at any point in time. D.C. had something like about 1,300 patrol officers. You may have 400 or so on duty at any point in time with the FBI and ATF and drug enforcement agents and others that they put in D.C., as well as the National Guard. They more than doubled the number of active boots on the ground. So you make it riskier for criminals to commit crime. You arrest them. Under the Biden administration, first of all, the U.S. attorney in D.C. D.C. is different than other places in the United States because in D.C., the U.S. attorney prosecutes crimes by adults. D.C. prosecutes crimes by juveniles. And during the administration, the U.S. attorney that Biden put in there, just was refusing to prosecute a lot of crimes. And in 2022, something over 60% of arrests, he refused to prosecute people. It was still like 53% in 2023 that they were refusing to prosecute. Judge Jeanine Pirro, the current U.S. attorney, has a very different view on that. You commit a crime, you're going to get punished for that. There's still problems with the district in terms of juvenile crimes. It just came out recently that the 10 individuals who beat up the guy who had the nickname Big Balls, who was working in DOGE, the government efficiency office there. He was badly beaten months ago. They caught the 10 individuals that were there, but it was just announced that none of them are going to get any prison time. They're just going to be on probation. They were released after they were arrested. And so DC itself still hasn't learned, but yet with all the other things that they've done there, it's made it risky for a lot of criminals to go and commit crimes. And you've seen huge reductions in violent crime, something like an 85% drop in carjackings have occurred in the district. You know, that's like night and day. And you have even the mayor, who is more critical to begin with, has become kind of a fan of it. You look at some of the other things that's happened in Memphis. The mayor there was not thrilled to begin with Trump getting involved, but now he's had fairly positive things to say. I was just listening to a press conference that he gave on that, and he was reading from some of his constituents who were, you know, they were able to go play outside now when the kids hadn't been able to go and do that before. So there's been some major changes, and it's just, and Trump has also made it easier for victims to defend themselves. In DC, it was taking 6-8 months or more for people to go get a concealed carry license. The Trump White House put pressure on DC, and they've sped up the process. So now it takes 2 weeks for people to go and get a permit. Those are dramatic changes.
All right, and Kash Patel was commenting on this as well, that these arrests, they don't mean anything unless he has the partnership of the DOJ. He said this during the press conference earlier today. Can you just talk to us about the role that the Department of Justice has played in all this under the Trump administration?
Right. Well, I mean, the FBI has a lot of agents out of Washington, D.C., to parts of the country where crime is occurring. That's beneficial. They've taken agents who were doing things that were, kind of bizarre political stuff, spying on Catholics, going and recording license plates for parents who would go to school boardings. The huge amount of resources and efforts that they spent going after January 6th. It just came out that the federal government had collected something like 30 million lines of phone call data on individuals that might tangentially been related to January 6th. They're going after real criminals. He just mentioned that they gotten 4 of the 10 people on the 10 most wanted list, individuals that had been on there for many years. And so, they're doing a lot there, and I think also going and prosecuting real criminals.
So, John, just one last question here. How much would you say does illegal immigration contribute to violent crime in the U.S.?
It's significant. Look, even the Biden administration, a couple months before the election, said that something like 9% of those individuals who had been released into the country, so-called non-detained individuals, had criminal. The thing is, those aren't even the ones you need to worry about, because, or least likely, those were individuals who basically turned themselves into the border. The ones that you're probably even most concerned about, and that's bad enough that they had the criminal records that they had anyway. But and it's likely that that's an underestimate even for those individuals, because the Biden administration basically didn't do a very good job of checking these things. But even that 9% is high. But beyond that, you have the so-called 2 million gotaways, people that we saw coming across the border, but we didn't catch. Presumably those are ones that we're concerned about. And then we have millions more that we never even saw coming across the border, because the Biden administration had pulled 76% of the border agents off of guarding the border, instead used them to process the millions of illegals that were coming in. And something like 30% of the passive monitoring equipment along the border was broken, and the Biden administration was refusing to go and fix it. And so, God only knows many millions more we had coming in. Those ones avoided being caught are likely had a good reason for avoiding that, for not turning themselves in. And one can only imagine what the crime rates are for those many millions that have come in.
Well,
and look,
all right.
The other thing is we have this huge increase in illegal aliens coming in during the Biden administration. And at the same time, we had this 59% increase in serious violent crimes that were occurring. I don't think it was an accident, and I don't think it's going to be an accident that when the numbers come out for this year, we're going to see a drop. And we're going to see a drop for two reasons. One is a number of criminal illegal aliens have been deported. But beyond that, even the ones that haven't been caught, they have an incentive to lie low because they know if they do get caught by police, they're going to get deported. And so one way to keep off police radar is not to go and commit crimes right now. And so I think for both of those reasons, crime by illegals are going to be a less serious problem. And I think it's going to help lower crime this year.
Yeah. Well, John, we really appreciate you giving us your analysis. Very valuable to us. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you.